All right, this is Darren Smith, and we are here live on Radio Row, and I have a very special guest on the phone, and which is very understandable because he's taking care of labor negotiations and meeting with his players. The one and only DeMaurice Smith, the National Football League Players Association Executive Director. Brother Smith, thank you for joining me today.
Money, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to our chat. Glad we could see each other in passing, and love to do your show.
I appreciate it. Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, why did you even want to take up the mantle of being the player executive when you went out for it? I mean, because who wants that type of punishment that we know that you take?
You know, to be dead honest with you, two things. One, I come from a long line of Baptist preachers, and that sort of runs through my blood. And then second, I asked the call about whether I'd be interested in the job. It just really felt like the right calling. And I knew the players were in for the fight of their lives against the owners headed into a lockout. And I felt that if they believed in the right plan, if they believed that they wanted to fight for all of their rights, then I was going to be the guy that was going to do their best, or his best, to protect them. And I love it every day.
I was about to ask you if you had any regrets. Now, you are the face of the Players Association, and with that obviously comes a lot of knives and a lot of daggers. How do you keep up? How do you keep yourself up? Obviously, because you get the good and the bad, and there's a lot of pressure on you to perform and to do your duties. How are you able to maintain?
Well, I've been blessed. I mean, I'm a man of faith, one, and two, probably one of the best jobs, if not the best job I ever had in my life, was being a prosecutor for 10 years and a homicide prosecutor for 4 years. So it does give you a sense of perspective, and you realize that no matter what you do, you're never going to make 100% of the people happy 100% of the time. And frankly, if you spend a lot of time trying to make everybody happy, in all likelihood, you probably don't have a great job, and two, you're probably not doing a good job at it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So what I try to do is keep, my mind and my eyes perfectly focused on representing the interests of the players, doing a good a job as I can, informing them and teaching them about the things that they need to be aware of, and being surrounded by great player leadership.
All right. Now, I would be remiss as a journalist if I didn't get into a couple of topics, and I know you get hit with this stuff all the time. So, I know you're used to it, but obviously the concussion issue, is the league, in your opinion, doing enough to protect the players and also doing enough to help those that have suffered, that have played the game before?
Yeah, and for the first part of the question, is the league doing enough? I think the league is doing a better job, but, I'm the head of the union, so I'm never going to take the position that our employer is doing everything they can to protect our players. I mean, My job is to actually think that there's always something else that they can be doing, and making sure that they are accountable for the health and safety of our players. As it relates to the former players and the issue of CTE, unfortunately, I know that the league did not do a good job informing players about the risk. I know that they didn't do a good job making sure that the players knew everything there was to know at the time about the risk of playing football. Has that changed? Yes. But when you do have that history, it does make you very vigilant about ensuring that our current players know and have access to the best medical care there is.
DeMaurice Smith, National Football League Players Association Executive Director, joining us on the phone line here on the ship. Now, Brother Smith, Thursday Night Football. I do think that I read somewhere that there was some agreement, I guess, with you and Roger Goodell that as of this state and moment in time that the strength and I guess Thursday Night Football is here to stay for some time.
Well, I'm not sure. I would say that anything we do in football is here to stay for some time. I mean, we've changed the way that off-season players practice. We've changed the way that contact is handled in practice. We eliminated two-a-day practices. We've cut down on the number of padded practices, and I made it pretty clear to everybody that I didn't think it was in the best interest of the players to play two more regular season games. Yeah. When it comes to Thursday night, if that's going to be an issue for the players to talk about this March, this is something that we'll do. And we'll take a look at the injury data. We'll take a look at the rate of injury. We'll also take a look at, obviously, the revenue that's generated from the games, and take a look at how much time players have off before those games. But we don't look at any issue as a myopic or singular issue. What we try to do is make sure that we understand what we want to accomplish in the business of football, and my job is to arm the players with the best information and let them vote on which direction we should go.
Now, because you are a lawyer and you are a black man, I respect your opinion. This doesn't have anything with the Players Association. But do you think the Rooney Rule needs to be strengthened, or where do you stand on that? And with the recent hirings in the GM and the head coaching position, are you satisfied with what you've seen this offseason?
Well, no, I don't think anybody with a brain could be satisfied with where we are.
Agree.
On issues of diversity in the National Football League. I mean, you take a look at the ownership or majority ownership of the teams. The league is not a very diverse place when it comes to women in positions of upper management. And I really don't think much of things like the Rooney Rule. What I do look at is, where are we when it comes to issues of diversity? Where are we when it comes to issues of opportunity?
Exactly.
Ask yourself the question whether or not you think everyone has equal access to those jobs. And, the answer to the question is probably no. So, instead of thinking about things in the concept of rules, we need to start thinking of things with our eye towards what or where do we want to be in football in a relatively short amount of time. And I think it's great for our fans if ownership looks like them. I think it's great for our fans if they believe that they're a part of a game that's not just taking their money. I think it's great if our fans believe that they are a part of something that is truly American and feels like America and looks like America. I love the fact that we're playing a game in Mexico, because I know that there's a lot of fans there that follow football. So it seems to me that the real challenge for the leadership of the National Football League is, how do we make sure that we have a business that looks a lot like our game?
Man, I can listen to you all day like I did yesterday, because you were just so thorough.
My wife has no interest in listening to me all day, I can tell you that.
Well, look, I got to ask you this, because I would be remiss, and like I said, I just love to hear your thoughts. But you were asked a question in the press conference, I believe, yesterday, or it was in the press conference about the Chicago Bears and what the owner's doing, but not going off in that direction. I do want to know what your thoughts are about these billionaire owners wanting public dollars to help pay for a stadium or to renovate a stadium. Now, I've always been of the concept that you got the money, don't be so greedy, you know what I'm saying? And because most of the time these taxes that they put out there is regressive and it's not progressive, so it's on the backs of the few that has to pay for this stuff. What are your thoughts on public funding of these buildings and these stadiums?
I mean, look, from a macroeconomic standpoint, again, being blunt, the National Football League is probably the greatest example of socialism in the United States, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, they do everything they can to socialize their cost and their expense, and they do everything to privatize their wealth. So if, imagine a world if you wanted to build a house for you and your family, and you decided that you were going to charge everybody in your neighborhood the cost of building your house, and then when it came time for people to come by your house and have dinner, you said, no, it's mine. So, think about it. I think that the issue of using public funding for stadiums in and of itself is not a bad idea. But if you are talking about using public funds for building stadiums and you're looking around at your public elementary schools that are crumbling or your public high schools that are crumbling, if you're thinking about using public money for a stadium and you can't maintain your bridges and your infrastructure, or if you have segments of your own community that could use the assistance to make sure that their kids go to college. Look, I love football to death, and I love this game to death, but at the end of the day, we are a country that has always decided that in order to maintain a democracy, it's important for every one of us to carry our fair share and our fair load. And when it comes to owners making decisions about where they're going to put stadiums, I love the fact that they wring their hands and, look up to the sky, and cry and wail when they don't get public funds and say, well, now it's impossible for us to stay there. Well, I look at a team like the Green Bay Packers, who a few years ago made decisions that they wanted to keep that team in that market, which is one of the smaller city markets for football teams in the country. And what did they do? They decided to split up the ownership of the team and have the team owned by the men and women who live in that community. Well, if a team truly wanted to do that when it came to a stadium, all they would have to do is make a decision of giving up a little bit of the ownership that they have, spread that ownership around to people in their community. And if people wanted to make a private investment in keeping their team or making a private investment in a local stadium, that's something that they can do.
See, now that's why people hate this man, because he's just too smart for them. And I know they shudder when they see you coming into those meetings, Brother Smith.
I don't know if they shudder as much as they just wish I would
shut up or get out of there.
Right. Keep my mouth shut or either come in the front door or leave in the back door, but I'm not doing either. So,
I know that's right.
They'll have to deal with me.
Now, DeMaurice, look, I could go. I got many tons of questions, but I definitely want to have you back when the time and schedule permits, because there's just a wealth of information that you have to share that I'd like to get into, because I definitely want to know about your time with Eric Holder, but I know you got a lot to do. Now, before I let you go, what are your plans for the rest of the Super Bowl weekend?
Literally until I leave on Monday, we have a number of partners, whether it's Nike, Fanatics, Under Armour, CAA, the major agents, the news bureaus that we do business with. So, this whole week is really a time where I spend, making sure that we maintain great relationships with the people who help our players. And I'm heading right now to a labor rally to celebrate all of the men and women of organized labor, to thank them for all the work that they do. And I'm on my way. I have a great friend from the Houston Police Department, and they've been wonderful to us all week and taking care of us and taking care of our players. So, look, it's a great week where I get to spend time with people who love the game, but it's a great week of really spending time with people who love the players more. And if I can drop by and say hello to a few of those folks, I'm happy to do it.
And considering that we both know the labor is under attack now in 2017 with the new administration and stuff, if that's your cup of tea, so be it. But I side with labor. And Brother DeMaurice Smith, I am your number one fan, so I need you to keep up the good fight and keep doing what you're doing and never settle for anything less than what you're doing.
I appreciate you, brother. Anytime. Love to chat with you when we have more time, too.
All right. DeMaurice Smith, National Football League Players Association Executive Director, joining me on the ship today. Brother Smith, you take care of yourself. God bless you.
You too. Travel safe.
Will do.